Hi, Carlos. Just jumping right in right away. That's awesome. Okay. So let's get the opening announcements out of the way. Hi, I'm Kelsey. I make comics. Today I'm going to be drawing fighting game characters for a little personal project that I've been working on. Hi, Jessica. Good to see you in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and speak from the heart at the top. So things are kind of bad right now in the state of the world. And usually I don't talk about that sort of thing on these live streams because these live streams are more to just show off my work process and encourage everybody who's watching to kind of lurk while they work. Not necessarily as like a distraction, because to me, distraction is a lot more negative than it has a negative connotation to me. Whenever I make art, it's not to distract you necessarily, it's to help you refocus on something else. And that's part of why I make art, is so that I can focus on something like really, really hard. And I wanted to bring this up because things are rough out in the world right now, from what's happening with Ukraine and Russia to everything that's going on in Texas regarding how they do not like transgender children. It's hard. I will say the best way out is through it together. So, in that regard, I wanted to announce that if you can, please, if you have the means to, donate to the Ukrainian Red Cross. If you do, and you're watching this on YouTube, there's more info in the doobly-doo. Basically, if you donate to the Ukrainian Red Cross and you forward me your donation receipt to the email that's in the YouTube doobly-doo, I will draw you a mystery commission. What that means is I will draw you something as a reward for your donation. What you get is entirely up to me. It depends on how much you give. So the more that you give, the more detailed and bananas the art is going to be. But generally speaking, if you make a donation, if you have the means to, just forward the receipt to me. I will draw you something as thank you, because it means a lot to me that you are doing that. I'll go ahead and mention too that if you support LGBTQ saves in Texas in the same way, forward me the donation receipt. Information more in the doobly-doo. I will draw a mystery commission for that as well. I highly recommend following LGBTQ Saves on Instagram. They are a LGBTQ advocacy group in Texas, and they have been working really hard with transgender youth and parents of transgender youth in the area. They are utterly terrified of what's going on in Texas right now. So both of those organizations, the Ukrainian Red Cross and LGBTQ Saves, highly recommend both. If you donate, please forward your receipts to the email that's in the doobly-doo. I will draw you something as a reward. I was going to mention something else. Train got derailed. It'll come back to me. I'm going to take a drink of tea. Yes, absolutely. I just want to highlight Carlos's comment here. Thank you very much, my dude. Yes. If you are broke, Train got back on the platform. If you are broke, please share the announcement far and wide. I made a post on Instagram announcing this, and you can find that you can find me on Instagram at Kelsey D Crawford. That link is going to be on linktree/Kelsey D. Instagram, more information there. I also made announcements on Ko-fi and Patreon. There was another thing. I'm sure it'll come back to me. I'll go ahead and highlight this here. And if there's anything else that comes to me, I will make an announcement. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm going to highlight Jessica's comment here. Amazon workers in Texas can also qualify for relocation help. So for folks who are watching this, spread the word, take advantage of that, do it. I'll also highlight this because this makes me giggle. Did everyone bring their fight sticks? I know I brought mine. Oh. You know, before we get to the art, I know it can be really easy to fall into the trap of despair. And I say that I know that it's really easy because I know coworkers at the craft store that I work at part-time who fall into this trap super duper easily, like at a terrifying rate, where they just kind of joke about how awful everything is. And I'm like, yeah, that's the easy way out. The right way out is together with other people. Like, it can be really easy to fall into the trap of despair because that's just isolating yourself. We can't fix problems by isolating ourselves. And I'll go ahead and say this because this is something that's been on my mind all day. It can be really tempting to think that, like, an individual issue is more important than other ones. They are not. Problems are interconnected. A problem in one place is a problem elsewhere. So by addressing even just one problem, you are also starting off the chain of events to solve other problems. That said, another thing that's been on my mind all day, it is okay to use this live stream as your time to decompress and chill. Because we can't solve problems by thinking about them incessantly. You have to take breaks. So I hope that this live stream serves as a good break. Again, the only way out is together. Take breaks when you need to. And with that, yes, absolutely, Carlos. If everyone helps, it helps everyone. Absolutely. Could not have said it better. Hi, Callie. Good to see ya. I hope the pupper is okay. I've been seeing pictures on the Discords. She is just so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay. With all of that, thank you for listening to my very lengthy preamble. Let us get to the fighting game characters. All right, we're going to open up the program here, and I actually have sketched out all but one of the base 8 characters. So I'll go ahead and show off the ones that I've gotten done. So these first 3 are finished. This is Charlie. She is my all-rounder. This is Sparrow. They are my rushdown character. And I'll get into what these roles are in a second. This is Yasuke, the anime fighting character. These 3 are finished. Oh, checking in on comments. Callie's update on the puppy. She is very, very good, being chaotic and my much needed break from reality. Yeah, that's my Bree too. Like, Bree is very much the little ball of chaos that serves to distract me from everything that's going on. Again, top of the hour. If you donate to the Ukrainian Red Cross, forward me the receipt to my email. Link is on YouTube in the doobly-doo. Also, check out my Instagram. My Instagram has more information on it. But if you donate to the Red Cross and you show me the receipt, I will draw you something in exchange. What I draw is entirely up to me. It is a mystery commission. But that I wanted to offer something because it's something that I can do. Like, do the things that are within your power to do. So these 3 characters are done. This next character, Bass Reeves, he is inked in, but he needs colors. So he'll more than likely be worked on off stream, because the other characters that I have are penciled, but they're not inked in. So I have here a knight, and he's going to need some more detailing here. I also have, I figured out a puppet character, because the puppet character, I had an idea for it, and then I was like, that's a little too culturally appropriative. Let's do something a little more unique. So here's my take on the puppet master character. I actually really, really like this concept. I also just, I get a dig out of any time that there's a character that floats because of their mind powers. And we have the big body. Yes, I am so glad that I get to draw my chunky boys. I love drawing chunky men. You have no idea. Oh my gosh. Okay. That means that there are 7 characters drawn up. And I said that I was going to make a base 8. So the 8th character is who I want to pencil next. So this 8th character, I love these comments. Oh my gosh. Thank you for giving me so much life. So the 8th character, I had 1 or 2 in mind, but then Overly Sarcastic Productions reposted a video with some edits on their Egyptian history. And in that Egyptian history video, they reminded me that Ramses II is a person. And I was like, ooh, actually, Ramses II fought with bow and arrows. He can be my zoner. So Ramses II is going to be in this hypothetical fighting game. So yeah, it's an interesting mix. Like, half of these characters are actual historical characters. The other half are characters that I just made up, which, I wasn't expecting to incorporate historical characters into this hypothetical fighting game, and yet here we are. All right. So with that, excuse me, let me get I had started with gathering some reference images from Ramses II. Now, with Ramses II, I'm going to take some creative liberties here, largely because Egyptian sculpture, as cool as it is, and I will say it is neat that, historically speaking, the art of ancient Egypt stays consistent across like 3,000 years, which is like absolutely unheard of when it comes to art of any sort. That said, a lot of faces in ancient Egypt tend to look very copy-pasty because it's formulaic. So with that, I mean, there's an exception to this Egyptian art rule, and we'll get to that in a minute, but because of that, I'm going to be taking a little more creative liberty with Ramses II and how he's portrayed. But I'm going to be as respectful as I can be that this takes place in Africa, because this is something that I feel like a lot of people keep forgetting about ancient Egypt, is that it is in Africa. Like, yeah, it in some ways qualifies as Middle Eastern, but that was after ancient Egypt, like, stopped being ancient. Whenever a large section of the populace converted to Islam was right around when ancient Egypt like stopped being ancient Egypt. Like, it's a historical thing. We're not going to get into that right now, but Still, I feel like a lot of people forget that ancient Egypt is in Africa, like North Africa, but it's still Africa. So, because of that, I want that to show with how I'm going to portray Ramses II. First, though, I'm going to, and I'll talk a little bit more about my process in a second. I keep opening the wrong folder. There we go. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Now, a little bit more about my process. Whenever I start drawing character art, I work off of one of a handful of files. So I have a folder on my hard drive where I keep what I call templates. And these templates are image files in Clip Studio Paint that are sized to a specific spec. There's one file that's saved to about this size paper. That might be a little easier to tell, but like about this size paper, like 5.5 by 8.5 at 300 dots per inch. I have another template file that's this one here that I just opened up. That's at 8.5 by 11 at 300 dots per inch. And I feel like I have another one. I have multiple like template files, but I keep these as templates in a separate folder to make it easier to have a starting place. That way I'm not like hitting Control N for new file and having to input everything manually. Everything's already set up. Oh, making me miss art history class. I always loved learning about non-European art forms. I could talk your ear off about African art history. Like, unfortunately, when I had to move to my new apartment, I had to toss a lot of my old art history class notes because I just didn't have the space in my new apartment to keep all of them. But they were like two fat ass binders that were like roughly the size of my head in thickness. And like that was from 2 semesters of taking African art history. Like, I loved the subject matter. I still do. I still have some notes, not a ton, but I have some notes. I've kept the ones that are the most relevant to the legend of Jamie Roberts because there's a lot of African art history influence on the legend of Jamie Roberts. And I can talk about that the next time that I draw the legend of Jamie Roberts on a live stream, which will probably be this upcoming Tuesday. I am rolling up my sleeves because I am very, very warm. But yes, I could talk your ear off about African art history. I almost was ready to talk off Ben's ear on his live stream because he had a live stream fairly recently. And he was like, hey, I have a character that is influenced by African art, but I know nothing about it. Kelsey, can you talk to me about it? And I just spammed like 7 comments in the live chat about it. You could have took photos of the old notes. I could have. The thing is, half of the notes that I had, so like one full ass binder, were articles that were printed off of JSTOR with highlights. Those would not photograph well because the text is already so minuscule. And I had gotten the gist of a lot of the stuff that was talked about there. Also, a lot of the notes that I had taken can be accessed on JSTOR fairly easily. And there's already there's already a fairly extensive African art history database that's hosted in, oh gosh, I don't remember what university this is. I have it bookmarked somewhere, but yes. Yeah, at least the JSTOR articles still exist. Yes, yes, absolutely, they still exist. There was also, and I'm pretty sure I have it written down somewhere. I have written down the textbook that we referenced for the first semester that we studied African art history. I still kept most of my notes from the second semester because the second semester was, hey, pick a subject, research the heck out of it. Your final project is going to be a presentation on the thing that you've been studying for the entire semester. And I'm like, okay, I got this. And that is why I have like, and I have this saved on my hard drive. I have this like multi-page article about the significance of the color indigo in Dogon culture. So like that's a thing. A new thing that you learned about me is I did an entire freaking scholarly article about the significance of the color indigo and indigo cloth and Dogon culture and how it connects to their ancestors. So there you go. Something new that you've learned about me. You're welcome. Let me get up the actual reference materials for Ramses II. I've been talking y'all's ears off about this. All right, here we go. Fighting game lineup. I was originally going to draw Hatshepsut for the fighting game lineup, but Hatshepsut actually didn't really do war campaigns very much, historically speaking. It was Ramses II that did all that. One of the most iconic wall paintings in ancient Egyptian history is about Ramses II's campaign against, oh God, I do not remember the name of this group of people, but they were from right around where Jerusalem is nowadays. So that's cool. By the way, if you like history as much as I do, I highly recommend Extra History, which is a sub channel from Extra Credits where they talk about history stuff. It's fairly cool. All right. Here we go. I like to do the split screen effect in Clip Studio where I have the references on the left-hand side and my drawing on the right-hand side. Why is that? I am right-handed. That is why. That's it. That's all that amounts to. All right. Now this I'm going to have to crop because I had to do a screen grab of this one. Boop. Boop. We're going to save that. You know what? I'm going to use this as a... My screen went black for a second. Lurking while I eat lunch for a moment, but please talk history to me. Oh my God, happily. So, oh man, I could talk all kinds of history. Now I'm just thinking about like the Fourth Crusade and how absolutely bonkers it was. Like the Crusades are a mess. Absolutely a mess. It does kind of tickle my funny bone, but also make me surprisingly happy that the way that the Middle East teaches the Crusades, it's a bunch of Christians were trying to make us into colonies. Kelsey D history. Oh, do not tempt me. I mean, let's just say that there was a reason why Women Warriors, a History, which is an actual book, was a basis of inspiration for an illustration project way back in like 2014. And for folks who are in my Sticker of the Month club, one of these people, Nzinga Mabandi, she's going to be a potential sticker, you have the option to vote on her this upcoming month because March is Women's History Month. And I want to feature Nzinga Mabandi as a person that you can vote for March's sticker of the month because I think that would be cool. Um, okay, let's get to Ramses a second here. Okay, hold on. We're about to get sultry for a second. Sultry in my pizza pusheen tank top because this is a thing. But I'm actually very warm, so I'm just gonna. Blah. As with all things, everything is covered in cat hair. Okay. All right, let's get to drawing. I am going to give him the trademark Egyptian round face. I had mentioned earlier that there is a major exception in ancient Egyptian art history because I had said, generally speaking, that ancient Egyptian art tends to look the same across 3,000 years, which is unusual in art history terms. The exception being when Akhenaten was pharaoh, because he had the bright idea of changing up not only art history and how it was preserved and how pharaohs were depicted, but who exactly people worshipped. Um, Part of that was because there was a lot of turmoil between like pharaohs and the high priests. It turns out there's a bit of a feud between the two camps in terms of who would control the people. And Akhenaten was like, we're just going to completely redo the religion because fuck the priests. We're going to start a new religion and we are going to take away the priest's power and we are going to concentrate all of this new power into a new location and we are going to worship the sun disk instead. And everybody was like, this is really weird. So whenever Akhenaten eventually died, everything soon reverted back to the usual. But there is a little hiccup in ancient Egyptian art history where, particularly in that new capital that Akhenaten had moved everything to, the sun disk features prominently in a lot of things, and the way that the Egyptian rulers are portrayed is unique because, for one, their limbs are noodly. For another thing, it shows the king pharaoh with a bit of a punch, a little bit of a rounder belly, which is like absolutely unheard of in ancient Egyptian art. Like, look up Akhenaten and behold, it is wild. Hold on. I just saw a comment and I have to look up what the heck are pogs. Oh, those. I forgot about those. Okay. Cuz Carlos, you had posed the question, will there be Kelsey D pogs in 2022? I'm going to say no. But art books. There will be art books. I actually started formatting one just for the year of 2022. I got that file started just to get that like going. And I'm going to be adding to it as the year progresses. Okay. Now, because Ramesses is my zoner here, he's not going to be like, he's not going to be buff in the same way that this wrestler character is, or even in the same way that Bass Reeves is. Like, Ramses is going to be a little more on the svelte side of things. He is going to have some pretty good arms, though, because, like, I don't know if you've ever tried your hand at archery, but that is an arm workout. Now, because this is an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, I'm actually going to do a little bit of a callback to Egyptian sculpture here. And I'm going to have one leg forward and the other leg back. Because that's a trademark of a lot of ancient Egyptian sculpture in particular. We're going to need to shrink this down again. Oh, we're actually going to need to shrink this doubly down because his crown is going to be freaking massive. All right, about there, I think we'll do. Yeah, because that's room for the crown and that's room for his feet. So that we'll work with this for now. There we go. I had to flip the canvas so that I could get a good idea of the placement of most of his foot here. Okay. Actually, before I draw the rest of that arm, shoulder placement, wrist placement, draw a line, find the halfway point, draw something perpendicular, boom. Easy trick for elbow placements. And then I started drawing on the parallel. There we go. Okay. Ran out of things to say. That is why I'm so quiet. Yes, also shrink like an Egyptian. I see your comment, Carlos. All right. I will say, ancient Africans, not just Egyptians, but ancient Africans had a really good knack for portraying realistic heads. Um, and I mostly say this because if you look up the head sculptures of old Benin, um, and this is a true story. So the head sculptures of the elites of Benin are so photorealistic, and they're sculpted out of, I think, copper, but they are sculptures. They are metal sculptures. They were, I can't remember the process 100% off the top of my head, but they are so photorealistic that when European explorers saw them for the first time, they not only mentally but physically could not believe that Africans could make such art. So they were convinced that the heads of Benin were physical proof that the continent of Atlantis existed. Make of that what you will. So yeah. The older the things, the more the things change, the more things stay the same, unfortunately. Mm, okay, yeah. I was thinking that arm was looking a little doofy. That's why I flipped the canvas. So let's. Also, let's rotate this head a little bit. There we go. We're gonna give him like borderline Daniel arms here. Daniel being my archer in The Legend of Jamie Roberts. Again, firing arrows is an arm workout. And yeah, in this hypothetical fighting game that I'm designing characters for, weapons are totally allowed. Otherwise, Bass Reeves and Ramses II would have a bit of a pickle. Also, the wrestler type can take it. The wrestler character that I have is the fighting archetype that we would call the big body. Big bodies have a big body, but also they have the most hit points and damage output of the entire fighting game roster. They do this by sacrificing speed. So they are not the speediest fighting game characters ever, but they are the toughest and the ones that deal the most damage. If you were playing Dragon Ball Fighters, I have not had the chance to play this character, but both iterations of Broly would qualify as big bodies. In Super Smash Brothers, both Ganondorf and Bowser are considered big body fighting game characters. There's a few other archetypes too, and not archetypes, but there's a few other examples. Like there's a character in Guilty Gear that you can very obviously tell is the big body. That's the thing about the big body gaming character archetype in fighting games is that when you get all of the characters in a lineup, you know who the big body is. But Ramses here is the zoner. He's going to be the character that he is going to do the best at a distance. And I wanted to tie that into history because the original, um, not tapestry, the mural that depicts his campaign against the peoples that I cannot remember the name of off the top of my head. It's there's double A's in the name. I remember that. Because I'm like, oh, that's an unusual spelling. But in his big commemorative mural that basically depicts that battle, uh Ramses II is in a chariot firing off arrows at the enemy. And I'm like, there we go. Zoner character. He does things at a distance. And there is a little bit of like, there is some celestialness involved with the mythology of the pharaoh because there's an entire mythology revolving around the pharaoh. So the uh there's a technical term for this part. That staff that he's holding, I cannot remember the technical term at the top of my head at this moment, but that staff, that crook that he's basically holding there, is a reference to that. It is a reference to his uh, divine calling. Okay, now this arm, let's shrink this down a bit, actually. Free transform. Because I was looking at the arm in relation to the thigh, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit too long. So let's shrink that down a bit. There we go. That works. Ish. I'm going to have to shrink that other arm, but there we go. We're going to free transform, and we are going to okay, a little bit more. There. Tidy this up a bit. There. Erase that line. That's good. Okay, so we got the general pose. Oh, let's get a proper bow in there. Okay, I'm actually gonna look this up. Do not be afraid to use references, children. There it is. Okay. First, got to save the copy. And second, get this up. Here we go. This is the tapestry that I was talking about. Let's actually expand the screen so that we can zoom in. There it is. Not tapestry, the mural. This is Ramses II in battle against the other armies that I cannot remember the name of off the top of my head. But that is Ramses in chariot right there. I wanted to get this reference, A, to show you the thing that I was talking about, B, to get actual image reference of the bow. Because bows are done differently depending on the region that you're looking at. Fun fact. So with that, we're going to zoom in. Okay. There we go. This actually gives me some good detailing for his costume, which is nice. I don't want to get too detailed with his costuming, though, because, I mean, it is kind of a trope that fighting game characters, particularly in Japanese fighting games, are overly detailed to the point of sometimes being an eyesore. I don't want that to be the case with these particular characters. that I'm doing designs for. I want them to be pleasing to the eye, and I also want them to be like not a pain in the ass to animate. Get that general face shape going there. Um, the bow, right? Okay. Which requires zooming out like significantly. Okay. I'm actually going to make a new layer, and we're going to call it Pencils Bow. That way, if I have to erase lines, I'm not accidentally erasing his entire figure. Oh, and so also I can do this. I can move it down if I need to. This is why I draw in layers, because it's so much easier to... Hold on, I'm going to rotate the canvas just to make sure that I got this. Like, oh. Okay. Free transform. See if free transformation is not going to do what I need it to. Maybe mesh transformation. Yeah, mesh transformation is going to do what I need it to. Because what I need it to do is I need to get the top prong and the bottom prong to be more level. That'll work. It's thinking. There we go. It had to think. Ooh. We're going to use the... if you hit the letter U, it takes you to the line tools. We're going to use the line tool to make the drawstring here. Whoop. Okay. Actually, that's a fairly good test of whether this is symmetrical or not, too. Pencils, bow, 2. I'm just going to do a redraw here, and we're going to do... If you hit the letter U 3 times, the hotkey will eventually take you to the symmetrical ruler. Or it'll take you to the rulers, and one of those rulers is a symmetrical ruler. So we're going to draw a symmetrical ruler here to make this easier to do. There. Hit P twice. P is in Perry twice to get to pencil. And there we go. Okay. Ah, there we go. I hit U too many times. There. Turn that first bolt off. We now have this. Boop. There we go. Okay. Turn that symmetrical ruler off. That'll do for now. Okay. Whoop. just going to lasso his head, and I'm going to Control Shift. Let me get to a proper layer here. Control Shift H will flip the thing that you have selected. There we go. Decided to flip his head. Okay. Okay, now that we got that, I'm gonna do the costume details on a different layer. Pencils, costume. We're gonna group all of these layers together into pencils, that folder. That way we can hit this little arrow caret and boop, it collapses. So much easier. Okay, drawing the costumes, I'm going to use, he was drawn in green. So I'm gonna do kind of a red violet for his costume. Why not? It'll stand out better. Or for the details, at least. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to rename this pencil details. There. Get the eyes there. I'm going to try to make the eyes as much of a tribute to the Eye of Horus as I possibly can make it. There we go. Okay. For this costume, though, I am going to skew a little more towards what's depicted here in the mural because that looks like his war regalia. And that would be something that he would wear in a fighting game, not necessarily like his ceremonial outfit. See, this is why I do the details on a separate layer so that I can do that. Okay. His hat, though. Okay. Because I was like, how did the dongle on this side get? How does that look in the front? And it looks kind of like this. Okay. You know what, though? Really tempted to put the symmetry ruler down his middle. But he is like a few inches one direction, so it wouldn't necessarily work. And then a hooded sneak. Or at least the rough outline of a hooded sneak. I'm going to turn that original pencil layer to 75% opacity. There we go. Flip the canvas to see how it looks. Yeah. Little fun fact about me: I was obsessed with ancient Egypt as a tyke. Um, like I read every book that I possibly could about ancient Egypt whenever I was like, oh gosh, I don't know, 7 or 8, and I had it in my head that I would be like an Egyptian archaeologist whenever I grew up. Um, as one of the many, many career fields that I would pursue as a young kid. Also had it in my head that I would be like a linguist and speak all of the languages. Turns out that's kind of difficult. Um, I mean, foreign languages are still a interest of mine. And I'm passable at Spanish. I at least know enough to be able to tell people where the bathroom is whenever they're looking for the bathroom. Um, I can speak basic phrases in Spanish. I did know I did know more French, but I am out of practice with French. I'm also out of practice with Italian. Um, I know a bit of Navajo because I stayed in Navajo Nation for 3 weeks, but that's not where I picked up most of my Navajo. Most of my Navajo I picked up from, amusingly, Duolingo. Although Duolingo's Navajo program is somewhat limited. Because when I had first started practicing Navajo on Duolingo, they didn't even have like vocal tracks, which is really important in Navajo because Navajo is a tonal language. You really need the distinct difference between like one form of N and another form of N, because when one is nasalized and one is non nasalized, that changes the meaning of a word. So at least now Duolingo has vocal tracks for at least like the first couple stages, but beyond that, yes, talking about the art, all the layers without the onion smell. Yes, absolutely without the onion smell. I wanted to be a professor of quantum mechanics. That's so learned, and also that sounds really freaking difficult. Oof. It's like that, it's like this joke from way back when in the early days of the internet. There was this thing called Ask a Ninja, and it was this dude dressed as a ninja, and you could ask him whatever freaking question that you wanted, and he would answer as a ninja. And there was a video that he did where he answered a bunch of questions. It was the Ninja Omnibus, because somebody had asked him how many questions can you answer in one sitting, and he's like, I don't know, let's kick this off. And I don't know how many questions he answered in that first video, but one of the questions in that first video was, what is integral theory? And his answer was complicated. I still think about that video on occasion. Particularly, somebody jokingly asked him, what is the circumference of a moose? And his answer was, it's Michael Palin with his face shoved into a pie times Douglas Adams squared. It's still my favorite answer. Oh, that's a fun time. I hope that guy's doing all right for himself because I haven't heard from him in a long, long while. I hope he's doing okay, whatever it is that he's doing now. All right, so we got that collar, uh, armband here. I think he has a wrist. He does. I hesitate to call that a bracelet because whenever you're doing archery, it is kind of important to have some gear to protect your wrists. Here we go. Okay. Go ahead and add that to this arm as well. But yeah, when I was like 7 or 8, I was like uniquely obsessed with ancient Egypt. Like I knew what canopic jars were, I knew who the gods were, I knew a lot of the myths. At least the sanitized versions of them, because like I definitely did not learn about the importance of Osiris's penis until I was much older. But as it turns out, Osiris's penis is very important in ancient Egyptian mythology. It's just never talked about in, you know, kids' books that talk about ancient Egypt. They're more talking about how did they build the pyramids from the bottom up. Because it's very hard to build a pyramid from the top down, as it turns out. And also the kids' books talk about like how were the mummies made, and that's how I learned that you can pull out brains through your nose, and I'm like, oh, that's gross but also so cool. Yeah, I was definitely that kid. Yeah, most other little girls my age were like, ew, brains, and I'm like, but how do you get them out of the nose? As it turns out, there's a special little hook that you like shove it up the nose and you dig a little bit and it pulls the brains out. I'm getting super gross. I apologize for all of you who are eating your lunch right now. Humans, we are capable of such unique projects. Of course, when I was a kid, I thought that mummification was something that everybody did. Like, it was not something that was reserved for just the ruling classes. I thought it was something that I thought everybody in ancient Egypt was mummified, but mostly it was saved for the pharaohs and their relatives. Yes, brains, and that looks like a zombie. It's either a zombie or it's Frankenstein. Either way. Oh, let me look at the rest of the costume here. Okay. So that's supposed to be bird-like, what's going on his chest there. Okay. Not sure how I'm going to go about doing that, but let's get this belt. Because he's wearing a very fancy belt as well. This actually looks, and this is my African art history background showing, that looks a lot like how belts are worn by not the Berbers. The Berbers wear their belts in a different way, but and if you don't know who I'm talking about, the Berber people are nomadic traders who go crossing the Sahara Desert. They're the ones that ride on camels. So whenever you see images of like people riding camels and crossing the desert, that's the Berber people. They have marvelous jewelry. Speaking from an art history perspective, but they have marvelous jewelry, largely because the Berber people made a lot of their money trading salt for gold because they kept, as it turns out, whenever you're traveling across the desert, you come across a lot of salt. And they were like, we have so much salt, we don't know what to do with this. And they would trade salt with particularly West African nations, and they would be like, hey, we have a fuck ton of salt. We noticed that you don't have a whole lot of it. How about we trade some? And West African nations being starved for gold would be like, yes, please give us salt, we will give you gold. And the Berbers would be like, cool. And that's how they got all of their jewelry. At least back in the day. I don't know what their circumstances nowadays, but historically speaking, that was how they made a lot of money. A fun fact, there is a king, a fabulously wealthy king in history named Mansa Musa, who was famous because he was a king of the Malian Empire, I want to say, and he ruled in like the 1400s, 1300s, 1400s, early enough that European history would have caught on to him, and they definitely would have caught on to him because he and his entourage traveled from his empire across northern Africa to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. And on the way, they stopped in Alexandria, Egypt, and they spent so much gold that they caused runaway inflation that took years to recover from. So, if you've ever wondered why it is that European nations were really keen on wanting to colonize African nations, particularly West African ones, it's because they saw all of this gold and went, I want that by any means necessary. Um, this is not to mention the absolutely aggravating history of what they did with all of the gold that they came across in Central America. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there today. But it makes me angry. Oh, it makes me angry. And I'm not even of those ethnicities that got pillaged by the fucking conquistadors. I imagine that those people are just like even more like than I am. Because those are artifacts. Oh, but we're not going to get into that. If you want a little more context about what exactly happened, Overly Sarcastic Productions made a video about El Dorado. You can just watch that, and that'll tell you everything that you need to know and why it is that I'm sitting here silently fuming that we do not have as many ancient artifacts from Central America as we rightly deserve. I'm going to have my tea. Anyway, let's figure out this skirt. Oh, he's cut off at the chariot. Okay. I think this is a lopsided cut, though. Because most cuts of Egyptian cloth were asymmetrical, oddly enough. It's just how it was folded. By the way, if you ever need like a pro tip on how to wrap a towel around your body so that it stays up on its own, I can tell you right now, a lot of West African peoples already have that like cinched because most women's dresses are like a single large cloth just wrapped around their body and then like rolled down twice at the top into like a tube and that stays still. So part of the reason why West African women, whenever they're dancing, traditionally they don't move around a whole lot because they don't want their dress to fall off. To be fair though, you know, there are some Western styles of dress that would be really easy to fall off the body, as it were. You know, I kind of want to leave his costume like that. I'll figure out his shoes in a minute, but I kind of want to leave it at this. Oh, but he needs the quiver. He needs the quiver of arrows. Okay, the quiver is going to be on his belt. Because not all quivers sit on the back. And in fact, it can be easier reach wise to just grab arrows from the waist and the hips. It is easier to grab from there than it is from over the shoulder. Later in the Legend of Jamie Roberts, Daniel is going to be gifted a new bundle of arrows. It is, in fact, the same set that he is working with currently in Chapter 6. When he is gifted those, he's going to keep his originally established arrows, and he'll keep the new ones. The new ones are going to be on a quiver that is stashed around his hip. Like so. I'm actually going to color those belts for the quiver a little differently so that I know. And by color, I mean add hash lines so that I know. Okay. So I got that. I'm actually going to leave his chest bare for now. I may revisit it later. Boots, though? Okay, let's zoom out of this mural and see if there's any other references that I can pull that could go into more depth about this. Well, no. I had a hunch that this was going to happen because a lot of ancient Egyptian art depicts bare feet. I don't necessarily want him to be barefoot. I want to look up some references and see if I can find anything. Ancient Egypt. I can spell Egyptian shoes. See what happens. Okay. So sandals. I'm seeing a lot of sandals. Okay. 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 I'm gonna zoom in on the foot. Okay. Odd that one of the first references that popped up when I went to DuckDuckGo's image search was King Tut's sandals, but we'll take it. Here we go. Okay, King Tut sandals. So, okay. And I wanted to show this off because of this unusual, by my standards, way of how this is all connected. So, like, it's not often anymore that you see the fasteners at the back closer towards the heel. Nowadays, you see it more closer towards the toes. This style, what we see on the screen, may actually help minimize the flip floppies like slap sounds. This is probably why they did it this way. Incorporate the point. And strippies. Go back to that pencil layer for a second. Go to the green pencil and flesh out this foot a little more. Okay. Pencil details. Back to the red pencil. And we'll dongle, strip float back, connector, and then we'll add the point of the shoe. That works. Yeah. Okay. Now, because we had grouped all the pencil layers together, that means we can collapse the layers and then we can move, and yay, it moves the entire thing. Oh, that's nice. Okay. So we'll save that, and there we go. We have Ramses II pretty much penciled in. I mean, I'm gonna revisit the chest and see if I want to add anything. But there we go. He's basically sketched in. Nice. We're gonna zoom in a little more so that we can see some more details and how everything looks. Looking pretty good so far. I'm gonna move that bow. There. Okay. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good so far. And that's why I put the bow on a separate layer so that I can move it around as needed. It's nice. It's so nice. Okay. Yeah. Whenever I'm doing character art like this, and this is true for commissions as well, I tend to err on the side of more layers rather than less because it's just easier to shift things around. Also very handy whenever you, like, say, send a sketch over to somebody who is paying you for a commission, and they look at the commission and they're like, "Oh, I really like this detail, but I don't like this one. Can we change up this thing?" And it can be really easy to just change up that one thing because you've already saved it on a separate layer. There you go. Pro tip for anybody who wants to offer commissions. You're welcome. Okay. Let's catch up on comments. Yes. Huzzah indeed. Um, okay. Before I get to inking, I'm just going to throw this out again. If you donate to the Ukrainian Red Cross, first of all, thank you. Second of all, um, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's more info in the doobly doo. If you're watching this on Twitch, there is more info on my Instagram, which you can find at linktree/KelseyD. But this is the thing. If you donate to the Ukrainian Red Cross, forward your receipt to me and I will draw you a commission. What the commission is entirely up to me. It is a mystery commission, but I will draw you something as a thank you for donating. I'm going to get that Ukrainian Red Cross link back up. There we go. I did entirely lift this idea from a couple different sources, both of which I spotted on Instagram. The first being there's an indie game developer team that is, I believe, based in Ukraine. Carlos, shout out the game in the comments because I do not recall the exact wording of the game's title, but they developed a game all about the consequences of war. And this game that they developed, all of the profits of the sale will be donated to the Ukrainian Red Cross. I thought that was really cool. I've also seen some other artists on Instagram. I believe Red Gold Sparks was one of them. There are some artists who will offer mystery commissions. Oh, the mystery commission as a concept I kind of borrowed from Instagram user Pencil Butter. There it is. This War of Mine, it is a Polish game. Yes, because Poland and Ukraine are neighbors. But the Polish game developers had an entire statement about their stance on what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. And the profits of their game, This War of Mine, will go towards the Ukrainian Red Cross. So there we go, signal boost. But I did get this idea from them and from Red Gold Sparks, Pencil Butter, and a few other artists who it was Pencil Butter that came up with the idea of the mystery commission, which I thought was cute. The idea of drawing commissions in exchange for donations came to me from other Instagram artists, because they would do the same thing, but for like Planned Parenthood or LGBTQ causes and things like that. And I was like, well, this is something that I can offer. I can offer to draw people things in exchange for their donations to the Ukrainian Red Cross. This is a thing that is in my power to do. I am going to offer it. More information on that, if you are watching on YouTube, is going to be in the doobity-doo. If you are watching this on Twitch, there will be more information on Instagram at Kelsey D. Crawford. That is K-E as in elephant, L, C as in cat, I, D as in dog, Crawford. Link is also at my link tree, linktr.ee/KELCID. With that, I'm going to get to inking this next character. I'm going to take a break from Ramses. I'm going to actually set him aside. And when I revisit him again, that's when I'll make the decision of whether to give him a fancy vest or not. You know what? Inspiration. I'm going to do this iteration, and I'll have an iteration where he has a vest, and that can be like an alternate skin. So if this fighting game hypothetical ever gets actually developed, there's alternate skins for him. So there we go. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. Yay, decisions. Now I want to ink in this wrestler character because oh my heavens, I love drawing me like non-traditional strong men. Like, okay, our modern conception of what beefy dudes look a lot like what you see in American comics like Marvel, DC. So like picture the Incredible Hulk. That's a lot of what people kind of typify strong men to look like. But as much as I sometimes like looking at six packs, I know what people have to do to get six packs, and I don't necessarily endorse the decisions that make them happen. So realistically, like the figure that we were looking at on the screen is a healthier, strong body than what you would see in like magazines. Because what you see in magazines and also true, what you see in the movies is like actors being super dehydrated and hungry. So like that is how they get the six packs. They're also flexing. So to get the six pack look, you have to be dehydrated, hungry, and flexing to get that look. Otherwise, your belly is just gonna hang because that's its natural state. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now, let's ink this guy in. New layer. Very important to draw on the new layer. Thanks. Oh, he's got multiple pencil layers too. So we're just going to group those into pencils. There we go. We're going to do that so that I can set that entire folder to 50% opacity, because that's what I like to do when I do inks. That way I can more easily see where my ink lines are at. Zoom in on his face. Now, this guy has already gone through a couple of iterations in his character design, but those previous iterations would change up his hairstyle. I've decided on this one because I had looked up, I had just gone to DuckDuckGo's image search function and typed in black wrestlers, And there were a couple of results that were like the best black wrestlers of all time, and it popped up with one dude in particular who is this. He has the same sort of figure as this guy that I drew, and he has this like wide nose, and he's got hair that is very obviously like braided and long. And I'm like, you don't see wrestlers with long hair super duper often. Because that could be kind of a liability in wrestling. But there's this dude with like longish hair. It came down to nearly his shoulders, and he was this really wide dude. And I'm like, okay, let's incorporate this hairstyle. And this is a variant of one of the styles that this dude wore, because he wore his hair in a couple of different ways. This is just one of them. The facial hair is entirely my invention, though. I was like, this dude needs facial hair. The facial hair was also in a previous draft of his character design, and I really liked it, so I'm just going to keep it. Here we go. Big broad chin. There we go. And yeah, that could work. I'm not going to redraw that. He's got some jet black sideburns going on over here. If you don't know who I'm talking about, watch Cowboy Bebop. Now, I've not seen the live action version of Cowboy Bebop. Don't know if that's necessarily a blessing or a curse, or a blurse, as it were. But I have heard that the casting for this show is the live action version of Cowboy Bebop is relatively okay. The best decision I have heard was casting who they cast for Spike's, not Spike, Jet Black. The actor who plays Jet Black apparently does a very good job of him, from what I have heard. Again, I have not seen this show, so I cannot say one way or the other. But Jet would be one of those characters that would be really hard to get right. So the fact that people are not complaining about that particular actor's portrayal says something. There we go. Okay. Boop. Flip that canvas back over. I think I'm almost out of tea. I am almost out of tea. I'm really tempted to start the kettle up so I can make another cup. But I only have like half an hour left. We'll see. Oh, that's the complaint that I've heard. The casting is great. They have good chemistry. The downside about the show isn't with any of the actors, but with the script. That's what I've heard. I've heard that the biggest complaint is with the script, not with the actors themselves. And this is something that Bennett the Sage brought up he did a special Anime Abandoned 2-part video where he talks about the live action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop on Netflix. And this is very true. Upon rewatching the original Cowboy Bebop, I gotta say, this point that Bennett the Sage brought up is very true. The original Cowboy Bebop is not made for Netflix. Because Netflix prioritizes binging. And how do you get people to binge? By getting story hooks at the end of the episode that makes people go, wait, that can't be it, and start the next episode right away. Cowboy Bebop does not have that structure. The original does not have that structure. The original Cowboy Bebop, um, it it's episodic in the best way, but it is episodic. Every episode is its own standalone story. There is a arc if you squint, but the arc is loose, and the basically the whole story of Cowboy Bebop from beginning until the very very end are all B plots. Um and if you don't know what I'm talking about, the A plot is like the big overarching story. The B plots are character moments and like looking at a character's trajectory going from point A to point B on their own journey, separate from the main plot, but happening at the same time as the main plot. So, Cowboy Bebop is a whole bunch of B plots. The A plot is told in flashbacks, which is an unusual move. Until the very end. And then at the very end, the A plot comes from the past and then comes into the present moment to insert itself into the story, which is a unique creative decision. It's not something that you see very often. Okay. I was not originally going to, well, okay. But I don't know whether to actually draw the braids or if I want to just draw the thick lines to imply braids or what I want to do. Now, the first thing that came to mind was the effect layering trick. With the effect layering trick, I've shown this off in a couple of previous live streams. I'll show this off here. You just start a new layer. You hit the effect button. It brings up these little circles. You change the edge color to black. We're going to change it to black, and we're going to have a white paintbrush, and it does this. I was really tempted to do that. The problem is that, and this is something I discovered when drawing a crowd scene page for The Legend of Jamie Roberts. If you want to draw braids, this is what happens. The lines kind of connect together, which is not the effect that I want. So we're just going to delete that, and we'll figure out something else. Okay. While we're thinking about something else, I am going to have my last sip of tea before I have to get a new cup. Oh no, there's one more. Okay. We'll nurse that as long as we can. Okay. Okay, let's get the black brush and we're gonna maybe 50? Yeah. We'll just have the paintbrush at like a size 50 nib. I usually draw in a size 20, but we'll have it size 50 this time. So that I can get this effect going there. And okay. Yeah. Oh, we're going to turn the pencil layer off for a second so I can color in his eyebrows. Ooh. Oh, I had the wrong bucket tool setting. Fixed it. Okay. Oh, Let's shrink this back down to 20 so that I can get these itty bitty little gaps. Okay, I got the itty bitty little gaps. We're going to keep his hair black for this particular character design. Whoop. Nope. Okay. I'll just erase that. Nope. Okay. Drawing the hair on a separate layer would have really benefited this in hindsight. Okay. There we go. That works. Draw the man with nipples because you hardly ever see that. When men show off their nipples, it's fine. But when other people show off their nipples, it's violations of Twitch's terms of service. It's very silly. It's also true on YouTube too. This was something that Sexplanations brought up. Sexplanations is a sex education YouTube channel. There was a video where they talked about human breasts, particularly lady breasts, and like the proper care for them and things like that. And there was a volunteer that they had brought on camera that was like, yes, I'm okay with being topless. But the thing was that in order to censor her nipples for the camera, what they did was they took photos of her usual nipples, put them on like big old disc, and then just pasted the pictures of her nipples over her actual nipples. And that was enough for YouTube's terms of service to be like, okay, that's adequately censored. And it's like, whatever. People are weird. Oh, he has a compressor on one elbow. Because sometimes it is very important to have compressors on your joints to help make sure that nothing goes out of place. And I should know I have a wrist brace for that purpose because this wrist sometimes likes to crack and really ache. Not right now. Right now it's fine, but a couple of days ago it was awful. It was the change of weather is what it was. You know you're getting old when you know, there are people who care very greatly about using the it lingo and whatever it is that people are inventing on TikTok, but I'm just over here like I'm going to say whatever the heck that I want as long as it's not racist, sexist, or problematic. So like I mean, the most egregious that it gets from me is I occasionally will say yeet along with my favorite phrase. This is something I say to my sister, my sisters, to get a good chuckle out of them. The Lord yeeteth and the Lord yoinketh away. It's still my favorite thing. Oh God, the other day It was yesterday. Yesterday this happened. I was working doing something in Clip Studio Paint, and for some reason I could not get the copy paste features to work properly the way I wanted to. And I was I was like working, and as I was like continuing to not get this right, I just went, "Work with me, Jesus." And my roommate Alex was like, instead of Jesus take the wheel, just say work with me, Jesus. So that's what I'm going to do from now on. If I'm ever frustrated with something, I'll just be like, work with me, Jesus. Because I think that's funny. All right, that big meaty hands. We're gonna keep them kind of big, though I am going to shrink that down just a wee bit. I'm actually going to change the sizing of the fingers here. Boop. My first thought was I should make them bigger. They look kind of small to me. And then I zoomed out. And when I zoomed out, I went, I should shrink those down. So that is what I'm going to do. And there we go. Oop. There. We got to get that belly button in there somehow. Yeah, that works. It's funny. I'm a little surprised that Chloe's not here because Chloe can attest to this. Every once in a while, I'll get like messages from Chloe being like, "Oh my god, help! I have a fat big character, or I have a big brawny character, and I don't know how to draw the beef. How do I do it?" And I'm like, "Hold on, let me doodle a thing." And I'll doodle something like this guy that I'm inking in right now. And she'll be like, "Perfect, thank you." I like drawing my beefy too. I like my beefcakes. I can't help it. Something about my beefcakes, man. I'm going to make this look a little bit more like a brace and less like a jangle. Here we go. You know, I try to do reading challenges on occasion, and I had thought to myself, I should read some more books by Black authors this month. And then I went, I should just do that whenever. And for the most part, I have been doing my best to keep up with just when I come across a book that is written by a Black author. If it fits my jam and I am the peanut butter, I will give it a read. And it has expanded my reading horizons, I will tell you what. Like, oh gosh, I think one of the more recent, okay, there are two books that I read by Black ladies, both. Um, One was His Only Wife, and I cannot recall this author's name off the top of my head right now, but she's from West Africa. I want to say Ghana. But His Only Wife talks about a young woman who gets married to a wealthy man. And this is largely because the family of this wealthy man does not like the wealthy man's first wife. So they basically hook him up with a young lady from a local village who meets their standards, and that's who this main character is. Oh man, this finger. Okay. I'm going to have to go under the pencil layers to tweak this up. Pencils, hand edits. Okay. We're going to draw that in green. And we're going to turn the ink layer off for a second. But that said, the main character, I do find her story compelling, but for a different reason than I find the vanishing half compelling. To me, the vanishing half is more compelling to me because the vanishing half does actually incorporate LGBTQ history in there, which I think is great. His only wife, less so. His only wife talks more about it's for straight people. I'll say that it's for straight people. There were aspects about it that I was like, okay, this can be compelling for me as an audience member. And then there were other times that I was like, woman, just leave. You would be so much happier in your life if you just left. But again, like that's just me as an audience member. There are going to be other people who will read His Only Wife and think, oh my God, this is great literature. I was not one of those people. But The Vanishing Half, great book to me. Because The Vanishing Half does incorporate LGBTQ history, particularly trans men. And I'm like, yay, finally, transgender representation that's not somebody dying at the end of the book. This is great. So shout out to The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I remember her name. Britt Bennett did The Vanishing Half. I want to read another book of hers. I cannot remember the name of this other book. I have it written in, I have this spreadsheet of books to read. It is absurdly long and it's just going to get longer. But Britt Bennett also appears in that. I'm going to bring this up because I have it on my Google Drive. Oh no, that's somebody else. I thought I had Britt Bennett saved in my books to read list, but I guess not. No, I have Farida Abike Iximide saved in here with Ace of Spades. I saw that at Target. I was not expecting a book at Target to carry a West African name, but there we go. It looks West African. It could be a different ethnicity, but I was just not expecting that. Also, shout out to, there is a person on YouTube and Instagram goes by the username Bowties and Books. Shout out to them because they do shout outs of a lot of Black books. So highly recommend them. They also run something called the NB Book Club, which talks about books starring transgender and non-binary main characters. So NB Book Club. That was how I first found out about Bowties and Books. As I found them through NB Book Club. So shout out to that. Highly recommend both. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Now, because of that, I'm going to erase the pencils on the previous layer. There we go. Just so this is a little more legible. There. Whew. Okay, back to the inking. Oh, I did come across, there were actually some book recommendations that were Ukrainian in origin. However, I cannot pronounce half of the names that were recommended. So, one sec. Hello.
Hello.
How was the party?
It was good.
Good. I am still live streaming, but that is okay. Yay. The roommate is back. Oh, yes, hold on. Let us show off your look. Look at this look. Yes, gold. Yes, okay. Snaps all around. Snaps all around you. All right. Woo. I mean, I don't really have anything new to contribute other than I drew Ramses the second.
Nice.
Yes. I'm very pleased with how he turned out. I am inking in my beefy wrestler now.
Very good.
Yes. Look at this chunk.
Very good.
Yes. I love him. I love him to bits. It took me forever to fix his hand, though. Because I mangled his hand. I don't know what I was thinking when I first drew it. I think I was having a seizure. Not to joke on anybody who has seizures. I have a friend of mine who has them if she stares at ceiling lamps for too long. So, no offense meant. Or at least she did. She changed her medication, so maybe that helped. Pro tip, for anybody who is transitioning and is on hormones, not all of your medications are going to jive well with hormone replacement therapy. So keep that in mind. Draw that thigh. There we go. God, there we go. I drew the line a little too wide there, so I had to erase it there. Kneecap. Oh, he has a bracer on this knee. I forgot that I drew that there. All right. I think the varying fighting game skins for this character is going to be how he does his hair. And possibly whether he's going to wear a championship belt. I think that would be neat as far as character variants go. Oh, dang, it's almost 4:00. Holy jeez. Okay. Because I was just thinking to myself, because this was something that Alex and I talked about. We were going to, well, first she's going to decompress a bit because she just came back from a party. And then once she decompresses a little bit, we were going to watch Undeadwood on YouTube. Yes, like Arby's, we got the meats. Yes, only the difference is that Arby's meats is for sandwiches. Ours are a very different kind of meal. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm not apologizing, even though I feel like I should. Alrighty. Ankle and foot wraps. There we go. Yeah, cool. Well, let's flip the canvas actually and see how that looks. Yeah. Yeah, that works. Okay. Ooh, other variant possibilities with this character. His facial hair might change up the facial hair that he has. I think I need to redraw his foot. I need to redraw his foot. That shit's crooked. Nope. Pencils, foot edits. Okay, we're gonna draw that in blue on the lighter end. There we go. There. I had to turn that original pencil layer off. It was too distracting. Oh, I do also recommend bow ties and books on YouTube for one other reason. The other reason being they tend to have the same taste in books that I do, and also they're very good about like giving content warnings about particular books. So, like, if there is a particular book that has like a really problematic content, or if there's like heavy topics that are discussed in the books, they'll let you know, which hugely appreciate. Um, more booktubers and bookstagrammers can learn a thing or two from bow ties and books in that regard, I feel like. There we go. Okay. That's a bit better. Oop. Yeah. Yeah. Now the foot's not as broken. Okay. Boop. And back to the inks. Okay, I'm going to finish inking in his foot and then I'm going to call it there. Oh, this was something that was talking about books. I pitched this to folks who are on my Tiny Dinos Discord. I was like, hey, so I had written a book called Thoughtful Dinosaur, which is about a velociraptor who graduates from college and learns how to adult. And one of the things that she does is she starts a little book blog. And I was like, so if I start a little book blog from the point of view of Billy Velocci, the main character, who would read that? And it turns out that there were a number of people on the Tiny Dinos Discord server who 110% would read that. So I may be starting a little book blog called Thoughtful Dinosaur. The caveat being anything written about books on Thoughtful Dinosaur would be from the point of view of Billy Velocci, the Velociraptor main character of Thoughtful Dinosaur. Her views and my views may overlap in some instances and not overlap in others. So that'll be an interesting thought experiment and character exercise. Tee hee hee, we call that footsies, yes. Oh. Will it be on Blogger? Oh my god. No, probably not on Blogger. If anything, I would probably put it on Tumblr realistically, but we'll see. I haven't That's the reason I haven't jumped on the idea, is because I don't entirely know where I would put it. And now I'm looking, the viewership has spiked. Now that I'm lingering on this foot, this says something about my viewership. I see you. Not necessarily judging you, but I see you. All right, we got his foot all figured out. Yay. I'll add body hair and tattoos later. I think I'm just going to wrap it up there for now. Ooh, wait. I'm going to add the blacks for the black wraps separately. And here in a sec, I will do the lock transparent layer trick. Here, lock transparent layers. We're going to go back into the ink layer, and we are going to first turn that opacity down so we can see what we're doing, and go in and make this white. There we go. And this over here too. This over here too. Missed a spot. Oh, definitely, for sure. Gotta get this section white. We'll leave that class blank for now, because in the coloring phase, we'll make that like a bright ass red. Because that's a callback to this wrap that I put on my wrist. It's a lot of work. Just casually toss it onto the glass. There we go. Okay. So we got that. We'll get that opacity back to 100%. And there we can see the lines. Perfect. Okay. Save our progress. And I'm going to wrap up the stream there for now. All right. We're going to stirp and there. All right. Final announcements. I'm going to shout this out again. If you have the means to, please donate to the Ukrainian Red Cross. The proceeds will go directly towards helping citizens. The link is on the screen. If you do have the means to donate, and you do donate, please send your receipt to the email in the doobly-doo if you're watching on YouTube. And if you do that, I will draw you a thank you commission in exchange. Not necessarily in exchange, but like as a thank you for donating. It's what I can do, because you know, we all have it in our power to do something, and this is the thing that I can do. I can draw you art as a thank you for donating to the Ukrainian Red Cross. Also, support your local LGBTQ groups and keep an eye on your local legislatures on any kind of bills that might be popping up that are anti-LGBTQ, because there's a lot of states that have a lot of that pending. So keep an eye on that. Appear in City Hall, make your voice heard. Also, just go to fivecalls.org. Fivecalls.org has like all kinds of stuff. I want to have my last sip of tea. Delicious. Oh, and it had just the right amount of honey to it too. Oh, good. I'm glad you had a great time watching, especially since I rambled a lot about art history. So thank you for listening. If you liked this stream and you are watching on YouTube, please give this stream a like. It actually does help in the algorithm, because the algorithm is weird like that. But give the video a like, subscribe. What? Algorithms. Yes. But yeah, like, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. Leave a comment, please. I love seeing your comments. Just don't spam, but I love seeing comments. If you're watching this on Twitch, feel free to subscribe. I stream every Tuesday and Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes there are exceptions, so keep an eye on my Instagram for any announcements. I usually announce the streaming schedules on Mondays, but I stream every Tuesday and Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, thank you all in the comments, in the live chat right now. Like, I loved seeing your comments this stream. Oh, the fighting game characters. I wanted to announce this too. So the fighting game characters are still a work in progress, clearly, because a number of these, I'll show them off on the screen again. Why not? Share screen. We'll get Clip Studio Paint back up. All right, these characters here that we are looking at right now, the wrestler, Ramses II. This character whom I have not named yet, feel free to shout out a name. The knight, who needs to be worked on, Bass Reeves, Yasuke, Sparrow, and Charlie. Charlie, Sparrow, and Yasuke are all done, but Bass Reeves and onwards, still works in progress. But this is the last live stream for a while that I will be showing off the process of working on these characters. In March, I will be doing a different series of illustrations. So if you would like to keep up with how these character designs are going and how they're progressing, if you have the means, I would encourage you to check out my Ko-fi page, ko-fi.com/Kelsey D. Crawford, because I will be posting future updates there on this project. I'll also be showing off other character design processes on there too, but primarily the fighting game characters will be shown off there for those peeps. So if you have the means and you want to keep tabs on this project, there you go. Next month, I'll be working on other projects, so keep an eye out for that. There will be a special live stream March 5th in conjunction with HerdCon. I will be announcing more details about that on Monday. And let's see. I think that's the most of the announcements. If you liked what you saw, but you want to see it in story form, I have a webcomic called The Legend of Jamie Roberts. It is about a genderqueer pirate and their two best friends treasure hunting in a land full of dragons. And you can check that out at thelegendofjamieroberts.com. Did I post? I wrote up a blog post about The Legend of Jamie Roberts, and I just want to make sure that it's posted. I can't remember if it's up there or not. Because I have a website, kelseydcrawford.com. You can find that on my link tree. My website has all of my webcomics, because it's not just The Legend of Jamie Roberts. I also have Puzzle Spell and a bunch of other ones. And a lot of the webcomics that I have done are all wrapped up. So you can catch the entirety of their stories. Just check it out, kelseydcrawford.com. Check out comics. Everything's listed. Validation is kind of back online. It's on Instagram. If you go to @validationcomic, you can check out the archives there. We're reposting the comic strips on Instagram because the official website is still down. Sorry. Don't know what happened there. But the archives are being uploaded onto Instagram every Monday and Thursday. If all goes well, and if the schedule allows, I will post on there more consistently. But for now, Instagram @validationcomic. Check it out. That story is about a transgender girl just living her nerdiest life. So, signal boost. Anything else that I want to shout out? Oh, it's the end of the month. That means if you want to get stickers in your mailbox, now's a good time to sign up for the Sticker of the Month Club. That's what I use my Patreon page for. To join, just go to patreon.com/KelseyDStickers. And by becoming a member, you will get access to my tiny Discord server. If you donate on Ko-fi, that gets you that too. But Patreon, you get the Tiny Dinos Discord server access. You get a new sticker mailed to your inbox every month, and you get to vote on sticker designs. So you get to pick what that month's sticker will be. If we grow, I would love for the Sticker of the Month Club to grow more so that we can incorporate things like pins. I would love to incorporate pins and mini prints and things like that. So check it out, patreon.com/KelseyD stickers. I'm actually going to look at changing up the pricing a little bit because right now it's $10 a month for US backers to get stickers. I want to see about lowering that to $7 because I'm able to print stickers at home now. So I can offer them a little bit more affordably. Okay, I think that'll do for now. Next live stream will be Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday at 2 p.m. If there's any changes, I will announce it on Instagram. I will get the link tree back up here. Linktree/KelseyD. If you're watching on YouTube, link is in the doobly-doo. Do the YouTube stuff. Donate to the Ukrainian Red Cross if you are able to. Really, in all actuality, if you are stuck between giving to me or the Ukrainian Red Cross, please give to the Ukrainian Red Cross. I can live. But that is it for now. Stay tuned for further updates on my comics projects and things. Thank you all so much for watching. You are awesome.